So you're working with a seller and you're at the listing appointment and you're going through a net sheet and helping the seller understand or determine and calculate how much money the seller is going to net from the house. Well, the seller, it comes down to a discussion of compensation to your broker, the listing broker, the broker representing the seller, and the broker representing the buyer. And the seller is willing to compensate the buyer's broker, but you're not sure how much. Well, let me rephrase. You and the seller negotiate, do a net sheet, figuring out what the seller's net proceeds will be by offering a certain percentage of the sale price to a buyer's broker, but you don't necessarily want to communicate this right off the bat. How do you fill out the listing agreement? Hi, everybody. Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta. And today's quick contract tip has to do with the Georgia Association of Realtors, GAR, Seller Brokerage Agreement on the 2025 Seller Brokerage Agreement forms. This compensation paragraph may change, but for 2025, this is what today's topic is. So again, bottom line is, you and the seller, you're the listing agent, you're on an appointment, you're going through various scenarios and list price, seller, buyer concessions like closing costs, any repair issues, all sorts of things like that. And one of the terms that the seller is willing to negotiate is the compensation they are going to pay to a buyer's broker. So you're on the appointment and you do a net sheet and you have a certain number that you do a net sheet for the seller. But the seller doesn't necessarily want to be obligated to that number because it depends on what the buyer offers in all the terms of a buyer's offer. Purchase price, when they want to close, any closing cost contribution they're asking for, any other types of concessions, what contingencies, contingency timeframes. So what do you do? What is the appropriate way to fill this out on the seller brokerage agreement? So let me share my screen and we will cover this. So again, this is the Georgia Association of Realtors Seller Brokerage Agreement, and it is GAR F101. This is the 2025 version. Today's video is in November of 2025. The 26 versions are coming out. I don't know if there will be any changes or not. We'll have all those, I'll have all those videos soon. But in the compensation paragraph, what you would fill out, how you would fill this out, is you would fill out compensation to the seller's broker. This is the amount of money, and it can be expressed as a percent of the sale price, a flat fee, or other compensation. This is how much money the seller is willing to pay their broker for representing them in a purchase and sale agreement. This next subparagraph is whether compensation is being paid to the buyer's broker. There is a lot in this paragraph. Let me jump down to number 2. Compensation is being paid to a buyer's broker. The seller says, yes, I absolutely will compensate a buyer's broker. And the way I'm going to do it is I, as a seller, I am going to compensate them directly. So you get to the closing table, from the seller's proceeds, the seller is going to pay their broker a certain amount, and the seller is going to pay the buyer's broker a certain amount. That would be this little box. Or the seller is going to pay their broker a big pile of money, and from that pile of money, the seller's broker is sharing that with the buyer's broker. That would be that box. So that's how it's being paid, which pile of money it's coming from, and this is the amount again, expressed as a percent, flat fee, or other. This is for the seller to communicate right from the get-go how much money the buyer's broker is being compensated from the seller's side. But back to my scenario. Seller said, look, I'm willing to do it, but I'm not going to play all my cards right off the bat. I want to see, I'm not going to tell them how much. It depends on the buyer's offer and all the terms of the buyer's offer. Time, like I said, time frames, contingencies, so forth and so on. In that situation, you listing agents, you mark this little box, C1. What this says is the seller, again, we're talking about compensation, whether compensation is paid to the buyer's broker. We're on the listing agreement. So this is coming from the seller, not initially offering compensation to a buyer's broker, but marketing that the seller is open to receiving offers in which the seller pays compensation to the buyer's broker. I have a little note here for you. With this box checked, then the seller may offer to pay any commission amount they choose based on the offer received. And there would be no need to do any sorts of amendments to the seller brokerage engagement. So again, the seller has the option to pay the buyer's broker however much, depending upon the nature and all the terms of any particular offer. If you mark this box too and put an amount in, the seller is obligated to pay that amount to a buyer's broker regardless of the buyer's offer. The seller would be locked in if they fill in a specific amount. Now, there might be a time when the seller absolutely wants to do that, because then there's no question about it. And a buyer, when they are looking to come make an offer on this seller's house versus another seller's house, they don't have to guess about what will offset their financial obligation to their broker. So again, I have done other videos in the past on how to fill out this entire paragraph, but I just wanted to bring to your attention, you would mark box C1 to indicate, to have the seller definitely be willing to compensate a buyer's broker, but not actually disclosing the amount, because they could negotiate it based on the other terms of the buyer's offer. Hope this contract tip helped you out. Thank you so much for watching. Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta, satisfying your needs with service, innovation, and education. Bye. If you like that video, check out the one here. If you like the content on this entire channel, please click here to subscribe. I try to take even the most complicated of real estate situations and make them crystal clear. See what I did there? Real estate made crystal clear. Thank you guys so much for watching.